Hey everyone, and welcome back to another tutorial. Today we're gonna make this beautiful bathhouse. So first let's open a plane, so Shift A and plane, and let's go to 7 and edit mode, and let's subdivide it 1 time and 2 and 3 times, and we're gonna subdivide it one more time. Go to 3 or face select, and then we can select these faces here. So one square here, so we can match this upper rectangle. So it can look something like this, and then we can extrude it down by pressing E, and you can make it as deep as you want. I think this is fine. And then we can scale it up, and now we can make it bigger on the Y axis, so select everything, edit mode, and S and Y, and a bit on the X axis, so S and X, and then it can look something like this. And next we can go to edge select and pressing Alt and click these edges here, and then press Alt and Shift and select these edges here, and then we can go to 7 and E and let it go, and S, and we can make it bigger, something like this, so we have more ground here. And let's do these curved walls here, so Shift A and plane, RX 90, and then we can scale it a bit up and also bring it up on the Z axis. We can go to edit mode and right click and subdivide, and let's subdivide it one more time, and we can also subdivide it a third time. Go to 3, face select, and we can select a face like this and press 1 so we can see it better. We can go right click, loop tools, and circle. If you don't have your loop tools yet, you have to go up here and edit and preferences, and to add-ons just search loop tools. You can box select the rest here, and X and faces. Select these here with your C and X faces. You can go to edge select and select these edges and also these ones, and E and Z. Just a couple of extrusions until we are down to the ground, so something like this. And then we can make it a bit wider on the X axis, edit mode and everything, and S and X. You can just choose a shape that you like. I think this is good. And then we can press Ctrl and 2. And once we have our subdivision, we can go to edit mode, select everything, and just E to give it some thickness. We can make a loop cut in the middle, and Ctrl and B to bevel it to the edges so it's more sharper. And then we can just make one here and another one here, also on the upper one, and shade it smooth. And then we can go to edit mode again and make it wider, so go to 1 and Alt and Z to go to X-ray mode, and 1 to vertex select. Select this one here and also these ones by holding Shift, and S and X, S and X. And we can also make a couple of more loop cuts like this, so 5 on each side is enough, so if we have a better shape. And we can just duplicate it and bring it to the back. So now let's press Shift D and G and Y, and maybe we should set up a camera so we can see everything. So let's open a camera by pressing Shift A and camera, and then bring it back by G and Y, bring it up, and again Alt and R and RX to 90, and now press Ctrl and 0, and we can open a new window so we can move the camera around, and press T to hide this menu here. And also let's hide the overlays. Let's make this wall here a bit smaller than the other one, so just S and S and X, and let's move it a bit back. And also this pool here is not big enough here in the back, so we have to make it bigger. So let's go to face select, select this face here, and then press Ctrl and Shift and this one here, and then you can select everything. And you also have to select these ones here, so let's select them. You can also press C so we can select everything at once. We should also select the other ones, so later we have to make this edge here. So let's select the other ones as well, so we can make it a bit longer, so G and Y. And now let's select just these faces here, and also these ones. by holding Ctrl and Shift again. And now we can just move them back, so G and Y. We can make it a bit wider, so we can go to Edit Mode, select everything, and S and X. So we have a bigger pool here. And let's move the camera a bit more outside and a bit more up. And we can make this pool here a bit longer too. So let's select these faces here and also these ones. And G and Y. And let's give it some loop cuts here. And also here, like 2. And let's move it a bit more to the back and make it smaller. And move it a bit down. And also this one, so let's go to Edit Mode, select everything and S and X, just a bit adjusting here and there until we have something that we like. And we have to make it also a bit longer on the Z axis, so let's make that. So just S and Z. And a bit wider and bigger. And let's move it a bit more up. Just adjusting it a bit here and there until you can see this pool here. And we can delete the other wall and select this one and duplicate it again. And move it back, and let's make it smaller again. And don't forget to move it down, otherwise it is floating and it doesn't look that good. So something like this is fine. And now we can duplicate this wall and we can bring it more to the front. And let's make it a bit bigger, I think it's too small. And let's go to 1 and go to your X-ray mode. You can also go here to your X-ray mode, or you can just press Alt and Z. And let's select this wall, go to Edit Mode and 1. And we can make it shorter, so select this one and holding Shift and select the other one. And X and vertices. And let's select this wall and duplicate it by Shift D and R, Z and 90. And we can move it over like this. And G and X again. Until it matches this corner, so it is intersecting, and let's move it a bit more. And as you can see, it is way too long, so let's fix that. Let's press 3 on our keyboard. Edit Mode and again X-ray mode. Let's select these ones and also these ones and X and vertices. And let's move it to this side again. And we can just duplicate it, Shift D and bring it over. And we can adjust this wall a bit and make it bigger so we can see the other walls. And also we can change the focal length. So let's go to this camera and focal length. Let's move this focal length a bit more smaller so we can see a bigger picture. And also these walls look a bit too small, so let's make these walls a bit higher so we can move them a bit up. And go to Edit Mode, and let's go to 1 and X-ray mode. And let's go to Vertex Select and select these vertices down here, and then just press E to extrude them down. And then we can just make a loop cut. And now we can make these walls, so let's go here and select these edges here by holding Alt, and then just E to extrude it, and Z, so you can move it up like this. And now what we can do is make a ceiling also, so let's go just back to Edit Mode and fill it, and then just press P to make a selection. Or you can go to Face Select, select this face, and P Selection, and name it Ceiling. And now we can select the ceiling and go here to Object Properties, and then we can go to Viewport Display and Texture and select Wire, so we can see everything on the inside. And what we can do now is this statue here. So let's make like a podium like this one here. For that we can just make a circle, so Shift A and circle. And let's move it over and go to Edit Mode and make it bigger. And now we can just place it somewhere, and let's extrude it a bit up. You can make it as high as you want. I think something like this is fine. And then again E and S and E. You can make a shape that you like. I think this one looks like pretty nice. And then we can go to our modifiers and search for bevel, and we can make a small bevel, so something like this, and 2 segments. And also let's make a subdivision, so subdivision, and shade it auto smooth. And then we have like this perfect shape here, and it is floating, so I have to move it down. So let's move it to the ground. And you can make it a bit higher if you like. And also you can make this one a bit higher too by selecting it and moving it up. I have the statue from Blender Kit, so you can go up here and just type in statue, and select this eye so we can see them. And now we can go here and reverse. You can select the statue that you like. You don't have to select the same one. If you move a couple of times to the right, you can see the statue here. So Venus de Milo sculpture. And we can just drag it in our scene to this podium here. And close this. And then we have the statue and we can rotate it. So RZ and 180. And make it bigger. So I think this size is good. And then we can do these edges here, these colorful ones. So select ground. So we can select this one and Control and Shift to select the other ones. Something like this. And Control Shift. And let's select these ones too. So then you have something like this, and we can make a Shift D and P selection. And then we have these edges here. Let's name it colorful edges. And then we can also add some plants like these here. I also have them from Blender Kit, so just type in plant. And again, you can choose the 3 options here. So you can just select plants that you like. I selected this one from this corner here. I think it looks pretty cool. So let's move it in. And one note, if you have your plant in the scene, don't just select these parts here. Always select the empty so you can move everything and scale it up. And then we can scale it way up and move it down. And we can just place it wherever we like. So maybe in this corner here I think is good. And you can also change the resolution. I changed to something different. I made it a bit wider on the y-axis. And we can also change the focal length more, so maybe this looks better. And let's move these plants a bit more in so we can see them in the camera view. Let's make them a bit bigger. And don't forget to save your file. And then we can just choose another plant. I think this one looks also pretty nice. And also let's add some water here. So let's go to Shift A, Mesh and a plane. And let's make it a bit bigger and also on the y-axis, so S and Y. So I think this looks good. And don't forget to scale it, so Control A and scale. And let's move on to the materials, so we can drag this window here. So let's drag it and go to Shader Editor. And let's change it also here to shading. So let's select this one and also here. And don't forget to save your file. And we don't have to give any materials to these plants because they come with materials, so we don't have extra work here. And then we can make the tiles material. So we can select the building here, so this one here, and press New. And let's go to this node and click this node and Control Shift and T. So a window pops up and you can select your materials. And for that you have to enable your node wrangler, so don't forget it. So edit preferences and search for node wrangler and the add-ons. And then go to your tile material and select everything that is in this folder. So your roughness, your ambient inclusion, your color and your displacement. By holding Shift and then just OK. So go to Shift, select everything and U, Unwrap and Cube Projection. And now it is way too big, so we have to make it smaller. So we can come here to this window, Mapping, and go to the scale. And maybe let's type in 30. And now it is a bit too small, so maybe 20 is good. Or let's go to 15, I think this should be fine. The displacement is also way too high, so we have to make it a bit smaller. So let's make the scale of the displacement to 0.01. And what we also can do is add a color ramp, so color ramp. And place it in your base color. And now we can make a bit more black. So let's increase it a bit. So I think this looks good. And let's also apply this to these walls here. So select these walls here, this one and these ones. And lastly, you building and Control L and link materials. And let's select this one and U, Unwrap and Cube Projection again. And as you can see, it doesn't look this good. We have to apply the subdivision, so let's do that. So Control and A. And again, U, Unwrap and Cube Projection. And now it looks much better. And also these other ones, so let's select them and let's apply the subdivision for the other ones as well. And let's do the same thing, so edit mode and U, unwrap and cube projection. And now we can move on to the water. So let's select the water here, press new and name it water, and bring the roughness down. And go to transmission and let's put it up. And also let's add a bump texture. And normal to normal and a noise texture. And the color into the height. And let's make the waves much smaller. So like something like this. And the displacement is way too high, so let's make them a bit more down. So just a little bit is good, I think. And also we can bring the roughness down to almost 0. And let's do these edges here, so we can select this one. And let's select these edges here by pressing Alt and click it. And then all these edges are selected. And then just E to extrude it down and Z. So we have like an edge like this. And let's make a solidify. And let's make it to 1. And we can leave it like this, it's fine. And let's give it some material, so we can give the same material as the walls, so the tile material. And let's first name this tiles material. And you can select this edge and search for tiles. And now we have also these tiles applied. And let's go A and U, unwrap and cube projection. And what we have to do now is click this little copy. So let's copy this material and name it tiles blue. So now we can choose a blue color. So we can just go to this color ramp and select this white color, and you can just choose the color that you like. So I think something darker like this looks good. And we can't see it now, so we have to make a lighting first. So let's go back. So let's add a sun. So light and sun and move it up and go to your render view. And also we have to delete this wall so we can see something. So let's go to 3 and again Control Shift and select this wall. And X and faces. And we also need an HDRI. So let's select an HDRI. So go to your world settings, click this yellow dot and environment texture. So what I choose here is just one with a blue sky. And we can leave the strength at 1. And now we can move the sun around. So let's change the brightness. So let's go to this little light bulb here and select maybe 6. And let's move it on the X-axis. And also on the Z-axis, so let's move it to something like here, so we can see the statue. And maybe a bit more. Something like this I think looks good. And we can give the sun a bit color. And we can make the strength a bit more up, so maybe 7 is good. And also let's give this ground of the pool a blue material. So let's select our ground. Go to face select, and we can select these faces here. So by clicking one face in the corner and in the other corner, and again Control and Shift. Or you can just go to C and select these faces here. So just these faces on the ground. Then we can come to this material and click plus, and then we can search our tiles and select the blue tiles. And what you can do next is assign. So click assign, and then we have these blue tiles here. And what I just saw is we don't have one here. And here's one corner missing, so we can select 2 again and select this corner here and also these ones. Let's go to toggle view so we can see it. Control and Shift, and let's select the edges here. And once we have the rest of the edges selected, just E and Z so we can match the height of the other ones. And what we can do next is go to our vertex select and select these vertices, and then press M and at center and enable your solidify, and now it is fixed. And now we can manipulate the colors a bit, and also let's press Ctrl and B so we can just see this window here. Maybe move it a bit more down so we can see the pool. We can change the blue color, maybe a bit more lighter, so I think this looks pretty good. And let's also give this one the same blue material. So let's select this and then go to your materials and select tiles and blue tiles. And now we have to unwrap it, so let's select it and go to edit mode, select everything and U, unwrap and cube projection. So let's go to our modifiers and let's apply them. So apply and apply the other ones. And now we can unwrap it again. So unwrap and cube projection. And now it looks much better. And also, as you can see, it is the wrong direction, so we have to fix that. So select everything and Shift and N. And now it is the right direction. And we should also make an extra material for this one. So let's copy it again and name it circle. And now we can make this much bigger by maybe 5. I think 1 looks the best, so let's leave it at 1. and you can make this pool much deeper if you want, if it's not deep enough. So you can select your ground. And then what you can do is just press G and Z and make it a bit more deeper. And you also have to move your statue a bit more down. And let's bring our water back and let's see what we can do. So let's click the noise texture and press Ctrl and T with your node wrangler. And instead of the generated, we can use the object. So let's put the object to vector. And don't forget to save your file. And as you can see, it is pretty small, so we have to change that. So let's go to the scale and make it just a tiny bit bigger like this. And also let's change the bump again a bit smaller. And I think it looks better with a tiny bit of detail and a little bit of distortion, so we have some natural water. And what you can see here is that it is white and blue, so we have to change it. So let's go back to our tiles and let's change that. So we can just select it and select this black color of your color ramp and just make it white. So I think this looks pretty good. And let's not forget the ceiling. So let's select the ceiling and go to your object properties and let's make it to solid so that we can see the material. So let's select it and search for your tiles and then go to edit mode, select everything and again unwrap and cube projection, and we can make it to a wire again. And as you can see, it is pretty dark here in the back, so we can make some light. So let's select an area light and move it to this area here and make it bigger, or maybe a bit brighter to maybe 500. And as you can see, the water looks pretty dark here, so we can change that. So select your water. And what we can do, so we can move the value a bit up. So let's move it all the way up. So now it looks a bit better and maybe not that much detail, just a tiny bit. And if you want your water to look more clear, you can select a light path. So Shift A and search for light path. And then you can choose the camera ray and move it to your alpha. And then you can see the water looks much clearer. And what we can do next is make these ladders here. So let's go to our solid view again and Shift, and don't forget to save it. Shift A and let's select a cylinder. And then edit mode, select everything and S and Shift and Z. So you can make it much thinner. And now what we can do is go to your vertex select. And then let's go to toggle view by pressing slash and make this window a bit smaller. And now just select this vertex here and Shift S and cursor to select it. And then go to your face select this face and press 3 again. Just scroll down in your edit mode, don't forget it. And select the spin tool. Change it according to your axis. So here's the x-axis. And then just drag it like this. And now we can go down here to this little window and just type in -180. So it is perfectly flat. And what we also have to do is make this radius a bit bigger. So let's make this radius much bigger, so something like this. And then we can go back and rotate it on the z-axis, so RZ and -90. And shade it auto smooth. And then we can select it again. And let's select this face and extrude it down. And let's see how it looks. We can also make this one a bit longer too. So let's select this face and G and Z. And we can move it way up. Let's hide the water. And also name it water. And select your ladder again and go to edit mode and select these two faces. And we can extrude them down. And we can just duplicate it, so Shift D and move it on the y-axis, something like this. And let's select the first one, go to edit mode and your X-ray mode by Alt and Z. And go to vertex select and let's select these ones here. And Shift D and R, X and 90. And make it a bit smaller and wider on the y-axis. And let's move it until it fits. And S and X. And we can duplicate it and move it up. Join these two, so let's select this one and this. And Ctrl and J. And let's bring it over to the other side, so Shift D. And let's move it over. And RZ and 180. And let's place it. And let's bring our water back. And we have to give it some materials, so let's make a new one and name it metal. And we have to just bring the metal up and the roughness down. And then select the other one and search your material. And let's see how it looks. So I think this looks pretty good. And what we also can do is change your roughness of your tiles if you think it is too shiny. So you can click your tiles and let's make another color ramp. Move it into your roughness. And as you can see, it is pretty shiny and you can make it more rougher if you want. So by moving the white value. So if you move the white value up, you can see becomes more rougher. So if you don't like it to be this shiny, so you can move it a bit up. So I think this looks also pretty good. And I think that's pretty much it. You can also add some more plants if you like. And once you're happy with everything, you can go to your render settings. So let's go to render settings. And I always use cycles. I think it looks the best. And GPU compute. And you can choose your samples to something like 300. And don't forget your denoise and use GPU. And the quality should be high. And then we can go to performance and select everything. And also persistent data. In my color management, I have it to AGX and very high contrast. And what I forgot to mention is you can go to your angle and make the shadows a bit more soft. And I changed the strength to 10. And once we have everything set up, we can go to F12 to render it, or you can go up here and render image. So let's turn the vibrance up to something like 50. And let's go to brightness and maybe a little bit more brightness. And let's go to smooth and put it all the way up. And then we can go to dehaze and make a little bit of dehaze. And let's compare it. And that was the tutorial for today. I hope you could learn something. And if you like this tutorial, please give a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And you can also write in the comments what you want to see next. And thank you for watching and see you in the next one. Bye!